So let's take a look to how you can store your payload in a text section. First, what we're gonna do is let's go to our course materials and see the source code of our for this example. So let's open up implant.cpp in Notepad, and let's go through this code. So we have just one main function, okay? And it's a little bit more complicated than the previous example. Now, so let's go through this. We have some shellcode here, 4-byte shellcode, and I will explain in a second why it's only 4 bytes. But the main logic of this of the main function is really simple. If we want to run our payload in a memory of the process, we have to do a couple of things. We have to create a new memory buffer, copy our payload into this buffer, and start executing this buffer basically. And this is what this part of the code is doing. Okay. So what first we do, we allocate a new memory region in a process, and we store the address in exec_mem variable. And this memory region is readable and writable, okay? Then we copy our payload to exec_mem, so we are copying this to the new buffer. And then we set our buffer to be executable, okay? Now you might wonder why I am not doing this here. So with virtual alloc, why not just allocate a buffer which is readable, writable, and executable? And the reason is pretty simple. AV engines and some hunting tools, some analysts might spot that kind of memory region because it's quite unusual that the process needs memory which is readable, writable, and executable at the same time. So to bypass that kind of detection, we are doing this in a 2 separate steps. So we first allocate memory as readable and writable, and then we change this memory to be executable. Okay, so that's this part. And if everything goes well, we start our payload we run our payload as a separate new thread in a process. Before that, we call getCar, and the reason is that for the demonstration purposes, I want to run this process under debugger. So what I'm going to do is I run this program, it will stop at this point, okay? Then we attach our debugger to this process and start to investigate what is going on. Now, let's go back to our payload. The payload is really simple. It contains only 4 instructions. 2 no instructions, no operation instructions, which basically does nothing on the CPU, okay? The third instruction is int3, which tells the CPU to suspend the process and give the control back to the debugger. So this instruction will actually allow our debugger to take control over the process, and that we can start and we can start analyze the process itself. Okay, so that is why I'm using this really simple payload. The last thing I want to mention here are these printf, 2 printf instructions. I have added them just for demonstration purposes and for debugging, so we will get some additional internal information of the process. So basically the addresses of 2 variables, payload address and exec mem address. But in a real scenario, when you are developing your malware, you don't need that, and actually it's not very wise to print anything on the screen of the on the machine. Okay, so just keep this in mind, that if you want to use that template, remove these two, or comment these two printf, and actually this one as well. Comment them out so that on the final version of your dropper, they will not print any information on the screen of the user. Okay, so let's start up our Visual Studio command prompt. Let's go to Z drive and our 0201 implant.txt, and let's compile it. And we can run it, implant exe. Okay, so we have two addresses. We can copy them for later. We will need them, so paste here. And before we hit the key, let's attach our debugger to the process. So attach, implant, attach. Okay, all seems good. So we hit F9 or click this icon, run. So the process is running. Okay, we get back to our command prompt, and we hit enter. And our debugger, the process has paused, so our debugger took control over the process. And if we scroll up, you can see our payload. So 1990 CC-C3. If you compare it to, let's make it smaller, compare it to our payload in the source code, it's exactly the same, 1990 CC-C3. So we stopped as we wanted when our payload started to execute. Okay, so let's find out where this payload is located in the memory of the process. So we go to memory map, we right click on the top memory region, and we go to find pattern, and in a hex text box we put some bytes, so 1990 CC-C3. So we put the exactly 4 bytes of our shellcode. Normally your shellcode will be much longer, or basic payload will be much longer, but you don't have to put all the shellcode in here. Although the more you put here, the better results you get. Okay, better hits. So let's click OK, and we have 3 hits. So let's copy these to our notepad, paste. Okay, and let's start to investigate. So the first address is this one, and this corresponds to exactly address of the payload variable. So 35E8D blah blah blah. Okay, so let's get back to memory map and see where this address lies. So it's 35E8D6, and this is this address. And debugger says it's a stack of thread BF0. So we go to threads tab, and we can see that there is a thread of that ID, which is suspended. Okay. Now you might wonder why our shellcode is on a stack, and the reason is really simple, because our shellcode is defined as a payload variable, which is a local variable to the function main, and all the local variables are held on stack. So that is why this shellcode is located here. So that's one. Now let's get back to our results and compare the second address. It's 1369 blah blah blah, which corresponds to this address, which is exec memory buffer, which we allocated with this virtual alloc. Okay, and you can even check that here, and it's really actually highlighted because because of the CC instruction. So it's this one, and you can see that this is a private memory, so allocated by the process, and it is executable and readable, which corresponds to this instruction. Okay, this virtual protect, when we changed permissions on that region. But also we can see that initially the memory region was readable and writable, and it's exactly corresponds to virtual alloc, so our initial memory allocation. So first two addresses are we know where they are. Let's take a look at the third address, 7FF623, 7FF623 1E 101E 10. So it's here, and as you can see, this corresponds to a text section in a file. We can even go and see it in a disassembler. So we go to the references tab, we right click on our address, and we follow in disassembler, and the address was the ending was 1E, which is here, and as you can see, this is 1990 CC3. So this is where our payload lives. So it's inside the text section. Okay. So yeah, basically this is how you can store your payload in a text section. So in a real scenario, what you need to do, you just need your shellcode or payload to be copied into this variable. Okay. And then, of course, you remove the printfs, and you are good to go.